Exciting Palantir week right as we are in Palantir's last weekend, pre Q2 earnings, and we've got big price target increases as well as plenty of deals to major shoutouts and many more. Now, what I think a lot of you noticed first looking at the stock, we got a wild week closing down several percentage points down actually into the 24s, which feels like we haven't seen for a while. But for those following closely, this is amongst the whole broader market weakening too, so you can take it with a grain of salt. But I'll cover later on in the video how this could even be a blessing in disguise. Now, starting with the lightning quick news first, we've only got a couple SEC filings. First, we only had a small insider sale this week, once again from Lawrence Stat, offloading around 3,000 shares. And then second, Palantir continues like clockwork to offload the Rubicon holdings. And speaking of transactions too, we finally see Cathie Wood selling 325,000 Palantir shares on Thursday, which is nice to point out considering we haven't seen a sell transaction from her in a while, and with decent volume as well in the size. But as always, do as you want with that information. I know the ones who like to bag on her might see this as an inverse sign in order to be bullish, so it's nice to get a laugh out of it and the reactions from her transactions. Personally, it doesn't mean much to me. Now, at the beginning of the week, we get a new deal announcement in the green energy space. Palantir's press release notes they forged a long-term partnership with Tree Energy Solutions, or TES. Now, we are light on the specifics here, like dollar amounts or the exact number of years, but they did want to emphasize how this is a long-term, multi-year partnership where TES will be leveraging Palantir's AI software, and that's in order to meet TES's goals of, green energy transition, accelerating global decarbonization. And Palantir outs this as their first of its kind deal for them when it comes to the green energy sector. Now, TES works with green hydrogen, or ENG, where it makes it easier and safer for transport, hence allowing hydrogen to be used as a possible fuel source more widely, which only outputs heat and water, so there's the decarbonization side. Now, they'll be using Palantir specifically on Foundry and AIP, and that's their products there in the management different aspects from supply chain management to even modeling the energy transformation pipeline. And this is also on top of using the ontology, which gives TES confidence in having that single unified operating picture. So Palantir continues to embed themselves into the future when it comes to energy, and this is also drawing though from their years of experience in the past with the current energy players as well that are big, specifically in oil and gas. So Palantir just seems to have their hand in both pots regardless. Next, we have a pretty few significant price jumps from the analysts, where we got Jefferies first going from $24 to $28, and then Citi going from $25 to $28. Now, from what I've seen, essentially, it's kind of a bandwagon kind of move here, basically saying they like the business, they like the story, the positioning of Palantir around AI and their products, but obviously have to point out the expensiveness of their valuation that they see. Now, these came out when they were in the higher 20s, of course, but when we close out the week, we fell down much more. Like anything though that has future growth priced in even at these levels, and the risk is really into execution and meeting those expectations. And honestly, I think these two in particular increased their price targets just because all they did was see the price of Palantir go up and didn't want to miss out. And they wanted to stay relevant here in the conversation when it comes to it down the line, especially if they were to run further. Now, if we see any more of these price target increases accompanied with new information, though, I'd be a bit more inclined and interested to care about it for now, but on the side, it's just a new story. Then we've got an awesome new deal with Hyperscience, which is actually with one of Palantir's overlooked products, FedStart. Now, since it's not too widely talked about, essentially Palantir makes the process of getting security accreditation for these companies that want to do business with the US government much easier, which in turn allows those customers' products meet those contractual obligations or criteria to actually compete for those government contracts without having to obtain this themselves. And Palantir points out through their years of experience, it takes more than a year sometimes, as well as the time and money and just connections to fully get up to speed here. But not only that is there is a maintenance aspect too in keeping your security accreditation once you've achieved it. So Palantir accelerates how fast you can obtain this down to months, as well as guidance on ensuring you get through the process unscathed with confidence and peace of mind. And once you're through, Palantir's environment stays on top of the necessities to keep it. They kind of spelled out the value proposition since Hyperscience is aiming to obtain their high Fed ramp by end of 2024, where they're already moved so quickly starting in June, getting their staging environment set up, then preparing for the audit stage this month with September through November, having them go through the actual audit process and submitting the evidence, with hopefully passing at the end of the tunnel. So this attracts more customers, I would say, with Palantir being the tollway, since the value proposition is just so obvious while serving the US government to obtain the best cutting edge technology while still keeping their vetting process. So it's a two-way street here on who's getting served. Now, Palantir also posts a new blog post on their work with Polaris in anti-human trafficking work. Polaris has been around combating human trafficking, where they operate through direct response, research, and intelligence, as well as public engagement. This partnership has been around for ages, over a decade, where they actually initially started out on development of dashboards and link analysis tools for the main focus. But then over time, as they built that relationship and what value they can provide, Polaris actually uses Palantir's Foundry product for more advanced analytics, as well as developing bespoke applications. And one of the outcomes of this partnership is enabling the National Survivor Study, which uses data to help inform policies and interventions around human trafficking, as well as the emphasis on data privacy and governance to protect that sensitive information, which Palantir is all about. So they also talk about Hack Week, where Palantir helped Polaris develop data workflows and analytical capabilities, demonstrating just how they can wield this power to support NGOs. So as always, it's nice to see the humanitarian work with Palantir does around the world that makes a real difference. Then we get a cool Crisis 24 demo where, in partnership with Palantir, they've developed the Dynamic Risk Library. This is a comprehensive 360-degree intelligence solution built on top of the expertise from former CIA analysts as well as deep learning engineers and the latest AI technology. So this platform will essentially serve the boots-on-the-ground analysts that need to get the latest on a more disjointed world that's full of data and noise that needs to be sorted through. This platform is designed to streamline that process and take over the heavy lifting on gathering, summarizing, and noise cutting through the data, and then to generate a comprehensive report on the intelligence that's truly important and valuable to them. And it's no surprise this is built on top of Palantir's ontology to tie so many data sources, as well as the relationships between each other together. So showcasing this off, Crisis 24 believes this is not only important for intelligence purposes, but enterprises on the commercial side too, and to be on the leading edge of information in a digestible way. And then we get a big piece of surprising news. Satya Nadella, Microsoft CEO, shouted out Palantir as one of their models as a service participants that had increased usage, as well as being recognized as the top of their industry, at least from Microsoft's perspective. And it was really brief, but essentially this is based off last quarter's performance, and it's no secret to Microsoft at least, who can see the API usage from Palantir, which in turn is a pretty big clue, I'd say, for us. There's an increased usage in calling these models through Palantir's operationalization of AI through their customers. Now, it's obviously nothing specific, of course, but with their earnings around the corner, it's pretty exciting news and possibly a clue that there can be increased usage, hinting at least more folks are trying out Palantir and hopefully transition to being a customer at best, although to what extent that remains to be seen. Now, with it being right before Q2 earnings, check out my full video posted last week that covered all the metrics and my thoughts on each one of those. But when seeing the recent price action like I alluded to, it's actually a secret blessing in disguise to me. But note, this is for longer term shareholders, not traders. Now, in relation to upcoming earnings, this means that we are going into earnings with just that little bit less froth on the valuation and maybe a little bit less expectations. Now, coming down to around the $24, $25 mark versus say $29, essentially we are, instead of a $60 billion market cap company, it's around $55, $56 billion. So for my personal taste, I still think it's a bit expensive, of course, for me to adding or starting a position. But what it does at least is temper down maybe some of those folks who were just saying we're going to fly to the moon at all costs. But of course, this still might be an opportunity for some folks, especially with the recent timing of being in the high 20s. But I'm still excited to see what's going to happen with earnings, even if we're seeing some recent price weakness, and there's still a full day of trading on Monday. But that's the spiel. I'm ready to hear another round of earnings. But what are your thoughts though below, and I'll see you in the next video.